Chapter 2.1, Determining the Normal Balance and Increase and Decrease Sides for Accounts. A couple terms before we get going. First of all, our chart of accounts. That's a list of accounts used by a business. Next term is going to be called a credit. That's an amount recorded on the right side of a T account. Debit is the amount recorded on a left side of a T account. Now I know a lot of you might be thinking, wait a second, debit card, credit card, aren't credits good and debit's bad and blah blah blah. In accounting, credit is not good nor bad. Debit is not good nor bad. All you need to remember, and write this down, get a tattoo, whatever, debit equals left side of a T account. Credit equals right side. Normal balance, that's the side of the account that is increased. Key point here, we're going to be asked quite a bit today about what's the normal balance. That is the side that increases. You can see examples of where the credit side may increase and examples where the debit side may increase, or where the credit side is the normal balance or the debit side is the normal balance. T account, that's an accounting device used to analyze transactions. It's absolutely wonderful. It allows you to see the left and the right side when you are looking at transactions. All right. Let's talk about using T accounts here. In using T accounts, what you have to realize is, let's go back to our initial transaction, our initial equation, which we learned in lesson 1.1. Assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. Assets are on the, if you use the equal sign as the divider, assets are on the left side of the equation. Liabilities and owner's equity are on the right side of the equation. So, if we know that assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity, we need to know then that the left side has to equal the right side. In other words, the debits, for every transaction, the debits have to equal the credits. Well, our assets are on the left side, our liabilities and owner's equity are on the right side. On a T account, which is nothing more than just basically taking it from that accounting equation, we have a left side, we have three parts to it. We have the name of the account, we have the debit side, and we have the credit side. The debit side always has to equal the credit side. If you make a debit entry, you're going to have a credit entry to equal it. There might be situations where you might have two credit entries and one debit entry. The two credit entries must add up to the same amount as that one debit entry side. If you can understand that component, it makes accounting a lot easier. Well, let's go through here. Now we have, so if you go to our equation, we have assets, liabilities, owner's equity. If assets are on the left-hand side, which they are in the equation, therefore, any asset is going to have a debit normal balance, or any asset is going to have a left-hand entry that will show an increase. So if we get more cash, that's going to be a debit entry. If we get more supplies, that's going to be a debit entry. If we get more prepaid insurance, that's a debit entry. As compared to liability, since that is on the right-hand side of the equation, if we owe someone money, we have a credit entry in our liability account. Now, in our owner's equity, our owner's capital account, which is under our owner's equity, if once again it's on the right-hand side, how do we know if it increases? Well, if we, as an owner, have more owner's equity or more capital from, let's say, revenue, now that's going to be a credit entry on the right. Now, conversely, if, let's say, we paid cash, we are losing cash, that's going to be a credit entry on the cash asset account. If we pay someone our bill that we owe them, then we're going to debit our liability that we owe them, or we're going to decrease the bill, hopefully to zero, maybe not, that we owe them. If we have expenses for our business, that's going to decrease our capital account. So if you can understand that, you're going to be in good shape. Let's take a look at this. So a more simplified term, any asset, a debit side is an increase, a credit side means decrease. On any liability, a debit side is a decrease and credit side is an increase. Increase meaning normal balance. In an owner's capital account, a debit is a decrease and a credit is a increase. So let's take a look at our transactions here, and we're going to go through real simple. We're going to write the account title in column 1, write the classification, place a check mark what the normal balance is, place another check mark to indicate the increase side of the account, and place a check mark in the column 7 or 8 to indicate the decrease or increase side, and we'll write the answers below. First account we're going to look at is cash. Okay, well, what is the account classification for cash? That's right, it's an asset. Asset is on the left-hand side of the equation, so the normal balance will be a left-hand side or a debit. So therefore, since the normal balance is a debit, therefore the increase side must be a debit, and if we increase with a debit, that definitely means that a decrease side has to be a credit. Okay, let's take the next one. Accounts receivable. Squidward. We're dealing with SpongeBob again. Accounts receivable. Think of it this way, as we talked about earlier. We are going to be receiving cash in the future. So we are going to be receiving cash in the future. Account classification. It's going to be an asset. And the reason it's an asset is because it's something that we own that can be used or turned to cash. This accounts receivable will ultimately turn to cash. Well, an asset is on the left side of the accounting equation. The account's normal balance then, if it's on the left side, therefore it has to be a debit. The increase side will be a debit. And if our increase side is a debit, then the only way our decrease side will be a credit. Got accounts receivable again with Patrick, but we won't use that one. We'll skip to supplies. Now, supplies, is it something we own that we use or can turn to cash? Yes, it is. Therefore, it is an asset account. Assets are on the left-hand side of the accounting equation. Therefore, the normal balance will be on the left-hand side or on the debit side. The increase side is the same as the normal balance side, which is the debit. The decrease side is a credit. Prepaid insurance. Is it something we own that we can use or turn to cash? Yes, it is. Therefore, our account classification is an asset as well. Think of you prepaid for it. It's going to be hard to turn it to cash, but you can if you needed to liquidate that for your business. Therefore, kind of sensing a trend, assets are on the left-hand side of the accounting equation. Any asset on the left-hand side of the accounting equation, an increase will always be a debit, or the normal balance will be a debit. The increase side will be a debit as well, and the decrease side will be a credit. Let's get a little tricky now. Accounts payable. We are going to have to pay a bill in the future. We're going to have to pay a bill in the future. Well, is it accounts payable? What type of an account classification is that? It's actually a liability. We owe people money. Now, liabilities are on the right-hand side of the accounting equation. If it's on the right-hand side of the accounting equation, its account's normal balance will be on the right-hand side of that account, or the credit side. The increase side for accounts payable will be a credit. And then when we finally do pay that bill in the future, to zero it out, to decrease the amount of money that we owe someone after we've paid cash, we're going to use, it's going to be a debit. Last one, we'll use our capital account. Okay, now capital account, what kind of account classification is it? Well, it is an owner's equity account. Owner's equity account is on the far right-hand side of the equation. So the account's normal balance will be the right-hand entry or a credit entry. The increase side will be a credit, and the decrease side for items like expenses and withdrawals will be a debit. Hope this helps. See you tomorrow.